Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we are talking about, yes, Terry Rozier might be on his way to freaking Miami, which would be awesome because he's a guy who fits that culture perfect. But the whole thing there, the whole problem there is figuring out what or how much the Hornets value Terry Rozier. And that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What are your guys' expectations for a Terry Rozier trade and why? And the easiest deal we're assuming is going to be Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic for Rozier and maybe another player because of, money wise. But I think it's definitely interesting when we look at this, how this deal could, shape up. So I want to hear your thoughts before we continue today's video. What do you think a Terry Rozier deal will look like? And how much do you value him? Is he worthy of a first round pick, or is he worthy of multiple seconds, or just a young player like Jovic, who was a former first round pick? Now let's get right into this. Coming from Greg Slyvander, I believe, of the Miami Heat. At Miami Heat, I think he's part of, I don't know, I guess he's Five on the Floor, which is a Miami Heat podcast. Now, when I look at this, it's like $22 million you got to work out for Terry Rozier, and they have 23 in Kyle Lowry, and the Hornets are under the tax, so they actually don't have to match the salary in the sense. And the easiest way to see this is Jovic, who clearly the Heat are probably moving on at this point with, and if you do Jovic with Kyle Lowry, that's about like $32 million you would be sending, which in my mind does make sense right there. Yeah, it's like technically it's 31.9, but you get the point. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat then try to see like, oh, would you send Cody Martin, or would you send, you know, somebody like, I don't think they send Nick Richards. I think Nick Richards do, but like Cody Martin's just not playing for them this year in comparison to what I feel like he was in past seasons, especially with Brandon Miller there. Last year he was or the year before he was a 26-minute guy, and this year I know he's working his way back from injury, and this season he's just not there. So maybe they could do a deal where it's Cody Martin, they bring the Martin twins here. So maybe that's the deal. If not, the easiest deal to do is Terry Rozier for Kyle Lowry and Nikola Jovic. That's the easiest deal. And the Hornets would only have to cut $1.3 million, which means they would trade JT Thor. So the first deal I showed you right here is going to be Nikola Jovic and Kyle Lowry for Terry Rozier and JT Thor. Now, is that the best deal? Probably, I think, for the Hornets, where the Hornets aren't going to have to give up too much like assets in terms of like, I feel like, I mean, for the Heat, they're not gonna have to give up too much assets. While I think the Hornets are getting maybe the short end of the stick because they're basically giving up, a good player with no picks just for a young player. Which, if he wants out, that could be the case. Now in this one, I think maybe is a bit more realistic in the sense that, okay, what if they do a more favorable pick swap and then they send their second to the Hornets, and they basically do this. So basically a first round pick swap, a second round pick for Terry Rozier and Cody Martin, and then you send Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic, and the two picks that I had said earlier. And also, I realized I put the wrong trade on the board first. My apology. So this is the trade I just said: Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic, a second round pick, a first round pick, Terry Rozier, and Cody Martin. And this first trade I meant was Terry Rozier, JT Thor for Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic. So let me hear you guys' thoughts right there. What would you do?